Oh, no, it's about Sharon tonight.
Oh,
Everybody wants to hear.
we always love Sharon.
Okay,
Yeah.
ring your bell, Madam President.
Chick
Thank you.
magnets.
Ring my bell.
There's our bell. Welcome. It's now to look over here and see, it's the 17th of November. Can you believe it? Sala, I'm so glad you're on. I got her email and she said she may be without electricity. So welcome, Sala. She's out, they're having extreme winds where she lives in Washington. Anyway, this is Gratitude Week, and I am so grateful for all of you for joining our Rotary E-Club tonight. We have a very special speaker. And yesterday, during our board meeting, we asked David Wick if he would design a little photocopy of cut and paste sort of a design that we could send and tell people how grateful we are for the work that they're doing. I don't know if at some point tonight, David, we might show that, that people know it might be on our website, because we are in such a moment when we just feel like you want to just thank people for being in our lives and for the work they're doing. And I also want to introduce you to our newest honorary member, and it's Mike Caruso. Mike, raise your hand so we all know where you are. This is Mike Caruso. Those of you who have been involved with Peacemaker, Peace Builder clubs might know that he is the originator of the Peace Builder Club for Rotary Action Group for World Peace. There's so much I could tell you about Mike, and I just am so grateful that he said yes. He's been past district governor. He's done so many things for Rotary, and I am so grateful that you're on. And our latest honorary member, all you honorary members, raise your hand so we can thank you for coming to our meetings and for being right there with us. Thank you so much. Now tonight, you know, we have a very special program because Sharon has been to Russia, and this morning, Rudy and I and several of us, David, spoke with a Russian Rotary Club, and it was that interesting. And so tonight we're going to hear straight from Sharon Tennyson, and I want to just bring the meeting right to order so we can hear every answer, because we all sent her questions that we wanted answers to. So without further ado, Rudy, do you want to do a real quick roll call?
Absolutely, and then we'll move forward here, and we have a little award here also that we're going to mention first. Got Karen on with us, Ann has joined us, Carol's with us, Jack. Good to see Brian. He changed his background from his grandson to peace. Mark with us, Sharon's on, of course, and Cliff Gold, Marcia's on. Mark Zober's waking up in the morning over in Israel. Hey, Derek, how are you doing? Marilyn, great to see you. Ike has joined us. It's been quite a while, Ike, so welcome back.
Thank you.
David Wick's with us. Mike Caruso, of course, you just heard about Mike, and Lucy turned her camera off, but she's with us. Philip from Petaluma, looking good, Philip. Irene, great to see you. Bob McKenshney is Cathedral City Club, right?
Yes.
He's been visiting with us, and
Right.
glad to have you with us. Belinda's joined us. Tony, where are you from?
I'm a friend of actually, I'm a member of the La Misión Rotary Club in La Misión, Baja California.
So you're a friend
And
of
I'm
Arthur's.
here as a friend of Arthur's. Yep.
All right, well, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Richard, great to see you.
you.
Francis, always good to see you. And let's see here. Haven't got any, yeah, I just didn't. Tom Snyder, good to see you.
Here in
Future
Mexico.
President of France, the Bulldog, Emmanuel's on.
My
Good
friend.
to see Denise. Terry, great to see you. Chantel, good to see you. You ran a little bit this morning with the Russians and had to drop off. Dennis, good to see you. Warren, as always. Bob, it's nice to see your face here. We've been exchanging emails, and I know you've been working with Sharon, so thanks for joining us tonight. Anya, thanks so much for helping with interpretation this morning. I apologize for speaking too quickly and in too long a sentences, so I'll fix that next time. But you did a great job. Thanks so much. Sala, good to see you. Brenda, thanks for joining us. And I think David's on here too. Kanadi, good to see you. Lisa, as always, great to see you. Christian Mehta, where are you joining us from?
From New York.
Welcome.
All right, he's been on this one.
Thank you.
David's on, Newman, Catherine's on, Down Under in Tomorrowland. And Michael Corbin's with us. Alma, great to see you. Leah Bolger.
Thank you.
Leah Bolger.
Hi. Yeah, I was on the Russia delegation with Sharon last year. I'm in Corvallis, Oregon.
Where's
Right.
your photo? We can't see you, Leah.
Oh, well, you know what? I don't have good light, so I can turn it on, but I will be backlit, and it just looks like this voice starting to come, coming out of the dark. So, anyway, I'm here.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so much for joining us. So, yeah, is there anybody here that is not in Rotary?
I don't think Christian is.
Yeah. I'm a guest of Sharon and
So you need to be in Rotary, so you should be joining our club. So
Sorry, he's the mister. Christian is very, very helpful to CCI.
there you go. That's good stuff. Well, tonight we have, again, our member here, Sharon Tennyson, but certainly a dear friend of all of us and a tremendous humanitarian. And before I introduce her anymore, I'm going to ask Jack to make a special presentation tonight. And Sharon, I don't know if you have on your mantelpiece your award.
May I get it?
Would you please?
Yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
This was Jack's idea after her talk last couple of months ago.
Right, that was the one that got interfered or something with it.
This lovely thing was sent to me.
That's beautiful.
I couldn't figure out what in the world.
Hold it up
Okay.
just a little bit higher there.
It's gorgeous, Sharon.
Beautiful.
Just
Yeah.
look at this globe. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Anyway, this is a very important,
Wow.
significant evening, an event for our Rotary Club, and obviously hope for Sharon as well. Because
Oh,
tonight we're presenting Sharon with our club's first Lifetime Achievement Award for advancing world peace.
oh, thank
And
you.
it's really what happened was several months ago when Sharon presented to our club, we had our board meeting shortly thereafter. And all we were talking about was everything you did, Sharon. And just through your initiative, tenacity, creativity, and talents. And
Find out.
we said that this deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh,
But members of the club said, wait a minute, before we give anybody that kind of significant recognition, we need criteria. So we developed 6 very rigorous criteria that one had to meet to receive this award. And we said that the person would have to achieve 3 of these 6 criteria. And the criteria were they had to make significant contributions to advancing peace in the world. They had to be successful in creating a more peaceful environment by preventing and mediating conflicts. The nominee's work has had a significant positive and lasting impact on 2,000 or more people spanning 15 years or more. The nominee's work has made significant contributions to improving understanding and cooperation between 2 or more nations. The nominee has fostered understanding within and across cultures. The nominee had made significant contributions addressing 1 or more of the following causes of conflict: poverty, discrimination, tensions among ethnic groups, lack of adequate access to quality education, unequal distribution of resources, degradation of the environment, and full participation in the political process. When we looked at Sharon's achievements, which I'll briefly summarize, she met all 6 of those criteria. So Sharon, we said we can make this an annual award, and we said we don't know if anybody's going to achieve those kind of criteria again. So we'll give it when somebody comes close to achieving the high bar that you set. In fact, some people might get a stiff neck looking up at that high bar. So very briefly, I know most of you have heard Sharon speak and know her, but she's promoted citizen diplomacy through 37 plus years of taking Americans to what was then the Soviet Union and now Russia to promote better understanding and informed understanding between our two countries. And she started her first tour in 1983 at the height of the Cold War. And unlike most tours to Russia that focused on tourist destinations in Moscow, St. Petersburg, the trips that Sharon organized and secured funding for allowed Americans to meet Russians in nearly all regions of the country. And these tours have continued except for this year because of COVID. Every year she's taken people. For 5 years, she secured $250,000 to fund diverse groups of over 100 Russians to meet with American citizens in 4 U.S. Cities. She's done a lot to promote economic development when USSR's economy, Soviet Union back then, was in serious disrepair. Sharon initiated and secured funding to provide much needed economic assistance to help countless numbers of Russians survive food and money scarcity. She helped bring 300 tons of vegetable seeds to Russia and got Federal Express to fly that money and other supplies for free. During her tour in 1989 of Russia, a group of young Russian entrepreneurs informed Sharon they'd like to start businesses but lacked the knowledge to do so. So Sharon secured a grant of $100 million. This is a portfolio. She's not with a group like Rotary or the Red Cross. This is a person on her own, a citizen, gets $100 million to help bring Russian entrepreneurs to the U.S. to receive firsthand training on how to start businesses. And she continued that for many years, and it grew to 80 different business sectors in 70 different regions of Russia. Several years later, she wrote a proposal with Rotary and U.S. Department of State that resulted in $15 million in funding to bring Russian entrepreneurs to the U.S. to meet with American businessmen and businesswomen. Of the 6,000 Russians who came to the U.S., 5,000 were hosted by Rotary clubs. She helped initiate Alcohol Anonymous in Russia. Russians back then had a serious alcohol problem. Somebody asked her how they're handling it in the U.S. Make a long story short, she introduced them and made connections with AA. And now Russia has a network of Alcoholics Anonymous programs throughout the country that helps. It's helped countless numbers of individuals and families in that. She's also gotten grants and helped improve the environment in Russia by, again, securing a $3 million grant to bring American environmentalists to work with Russians to clean up lakes and waterways and additional environmental projects. Although for 37 years, Sharon has devoted nearly every waking hour to improving relations between Russians and Americans, at the ripe age of 82, she has more plans. And she'd like to train a cadre of people to lead the tours after 2021, when she will no longer do so, help facilitate relations between U.S. and Russian Rotary clubs, and she started that today with a meeting, establish Zoom meetings between U.S. Russian citizens to promote mutual understanding and cooperation efforts, cooperative efforts, and especially developing and securing funding for youth for our two countries to meet on an ongoing basis via Zoom and in person to start that relationship at an early age. So Sharon, for all these accomplishments, we felt there's nobody more deserving than you to receive our Lifetime Achievement Award for advancing world peace. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jack and Rudy and all club members. Thank you so much. And I will treasure this forever. It was on my mantle until just now.
It's
just beautiful.
It's
But I
well,
also
it's
want to
very
say I didn't get that much money, and I also gave money back when I didn't spend it for the grants. And so I did get the first one was for 10 million. They offered 10, I took 7.
Mm.
And then later on, I was given another 15, and I think I had a 30 million grant at one time, but those were huge. At that time, we were traveling Russians back and forth over in our country, keeping them over here. Rotary was involved with it. It was a huge operation, but I always spent the money well. I spent it like a nonprofit would, and I gave it back if I didn't use all of it.
It's what you've done is incredible, but
Well-
it shows the power of one person and one woman. When she puts her mind to something, can change the world. And you have a big lever out there, and you've changed the world and made our world a safer place. We still have some work to do, and you still have some work to do, even though your family probably wants you to slow down a bit. You're getting younger every year, so it's
Thank you, thank you, thank you. But guys, you guys have done such incredible work. I'm always amazed after I have Rotary clubs with you guys, Rotary meetings with you all. I hear what you're doing. We're all doing it. You know, we just do it in different sectors of the world. And so, at any rate, I am so delighted to be a member of this club because every Tuesday night after the club meeting, I would just feel like jumping up and down. I think, oh, I found my club. I found my group. I found my people.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times, you know, I'm just out there by myself and the Russians are over here. And of course, you know, we have a lot of good relationships with each other. People are around the country, but every Tuesday night I get to be with you guys and hear what you're doing. And so I'm just so grateful to you. I'm going to go by a little list that I've kind of put here so that to make sure that I will stay on target, because sometimes I can get off. I have a trillion different things in my mind that get triggered, and I sometimes say too many of them. But at any rate, I do just want to thank you and tell you how important your club is to me.
yeah. So we like the Sharon, it's our club, yeah. Your club, it's your club, Sharon.
Ours, yeah.
We wanted Sharon to come back and speak to us after the election here to try to think about how we could reestablish good relations between Russia and the United States, and what she sees out there, and reality from her eyes. We spent 37 years learning about Russia and its leadership and its citizens. And so, Sharon, you take it away. This is all yours. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. And I want to share with you that talking about Russia today in the United States is not an easy task. And when I do, a lot of times I get people that are not happy at all because they consider, for instance, they think you're a Russian supporter more than they are an American supporter. They think you're a Putin lover. I've been called all kinds of things. So it's wonderful to be in a place where I can tell the truth that as I see it, and nobody will call me. They will think poorly of me. But at any rate, I did want to put some notes down so I would be able to talk sequentially with you. The first thing I want to say is I pledge to you that nothing I say would interfere with any of the principles that we have in Rotary, including the first one, which is always tell the truth. And so I want you to know that anything that I say will be coming from that place. And then I want to start with history, because back in the earlier days that I remember, and maybe some of you do too, back before World War II, America was coming up and doing well. And then with World War II, most of the people in other countries of Europe that we were familiar with were ravaged by that war, but we weren't. We lost about 500,000 boys in service at that time, but nonetheless, our land was perfectly clean and clear and operating well, better than it ever had when the war was over. And so that was when the era became ours. We were the noted country of the world, and the unipolar world, they're calling it these days. As all of you know, empires, whether we think we're an empire or not, but the big leaders of the world have always come up, then they have plateaued, and they have gone down. And usually in something close to a 200-year period. For many of them, and books have been written about this, but at any rate, we're in the process now where we have come up, and we had a long period of stability where we were able to be the leader of the world. And we are now, unfortunately, or fortunately, it makes no difference, in the place where we are going to be, we are in decline, at least in my impression. This is the way I read it. And many people, and I'm seeing all over the news these days, wherever it is, they're talking about our decline, the fact, what the things that we are not doing right, the things that we have done wrong in the past. And so we're having to deal with this regardless of what party we're in, and figure out how we can go into this decline gracefully and without creating any more wars, because one of the worst things that has happened is that we have had enormous amounts of wars that have left nations and peoples just devastated. I read articles even today that made me want to cry. And so how can we retrieve, or how can we go down gracefully and respectfully and still make our mark on the world? It would be very easy if we would be willing to be not a unipolar world or a unipolar country in all of the world, but be part of a multipolar world. And I'm sure that these names are familiar to you because it's been talked about now for several years. But at any rate, what we need to do is to cooperate, stop our wars, bring our boys home. They're not needed in Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or any of these places. And they're doing nothing but causing more trouble and more deaths and more devastation. And so what we really need to do is what President Putin asked for 2 or 3 months ago. He said, let 5 of us, the largest nations of the world, meet at the United Nations and let us talk about how we can together orchestrate plans to help the world settle itself down and get away from these wars. And at one time, Trump said that he would meet with him. The rest of them said that absolutely they would meet with him. But Trump said he would meet with him, and then he changed his mind. Somebody must have given him the word that he couldn't do this. But at any rate, this is what we need to do, is work toward a unipolar world if we're ever going to have. The only thing that will happen if we don't is that we will get into a nuclear war sooner or later. Hopefully not sooner, but we know that that our planes and our submarines are carrying loaded missiles right now. They're off the shores of our countries and of Russia's country, and the bombers are in the air. There's potential for great damage here. I mean, if one accident happens, it could set off a chain reaction. And so this is the most serious thing I think that we have to settle. And one thing that we have to do is stop demonizing Russia and Putin. And as being in and out of that country all the time, I have learned they are very different from us in many different ways, a lot of it because of fear that they had during the Soviet Union, but also fear of war, fear of each other that developed in the USSR. And they have some mannerisms that are unlike us. They're very introverted compared to us. We're very extroverted compared to them. And I think they like our extrovertism somewhat, but they're unsettled by it. And we need to understand that and do that dance with them where we make ourselves listen and be helpful and be kind and support them and just move graciously with them through this period that we're in now. So with that, I think I will just go ahead and start with the questions that you all had. And so I've got the list here. Jack was the first one with his questions. And I think all of these questions are excellent. Jack's first one was, what could the Biden administration do to improve relations with Russia? Well, firstly, we could sign the treaties that they would so like to have, that they've offered over and over and over. Finally, Putin offered, said, even without any conditions at all, just sign so that we will have some feeling that you're not going to be dropping weapons anytime soon. And so that's one. But I read in the papers today that he's not planning on doing that. He's got a very hard-nosed agenda with the Russians. And it looks like it could get worse instead of better. So I think one thing that we could do is, in some ways, many ways, go and or write letters, let him know, let his Congress members know that we think that this is the absolutely wrong policy, and we've got to have a better policy for the good of our own country. The next one is, what could Putin do to improve relations with the United States? This is a sticky question here, because I can tell you from watching year after year after year, Putin has done so many things to show goodwill, to support our troops in Afghanistan when he didn't believe in the war to start with, to make ways for us to make air flights over Russia, which otherwise he could easily shut off, in order to do some of the war making in the Middle East. And every time that he offers anything, we just take it and then don't put anything in return to him. We still criticize him. We still make fun of Russia. We still demonize different things that are going on in the country without rumors. And there's nothing that's happening there that's really demonic. The country has come up amazingly well in the last few years, actually since Putin has been in charge. He's been there for 20 years now. And I can tell you that the years before he came were just awful, particularly the 90s, right after the Soviet Union fell apart. And then they had 10 years when they didn't have any money, they didn't have food. They say over 1 million people died just from life circumstances of not being able to survive in the environment. And meanwhile, the oligarchs, and both American and Russian, were in and out of the country making headway with all of the industries of the country. And that finally had to be straightened out, but it didn't happen until Putin came in. That's another whole story I'd love to spend time talking with you about, but not time for it right now. But at any rate, anytime Putin has offered, we have just kind of taken his offer and walked off, or rejected it and considered it out of the realm of possibility. And unfortunately, last week, I think it was, he began saying, we're through. We're not going to be offering anything anymore. Regardless of what we offer, the United States pays no attention to, the policymakers in the United States pay no attention to. We're through. And I've already begun to see in the newspapers and periodicals that he's serious about this. He says, if you won't cooperate with any of this, no, we're not cooperating with you, period. And so I'm looking at a situation that I see could get very testy, because Biden is going to be trying to show his macho stuff as he gets into his new office. And whoever is behind that office, which there are no doubt in my mind, many, many people, including the military industrial complex, who need to keep wars because they need to make money. And he's going to be, so here he is now. So we've got Biden, who's got to prove his worth to whoever it is that's behind the office, and Putin, who simply says, I'm tired of you. Don't bother us. We're on our own. We will survive as well as you can, but don't ever put a missile on our soil, because if you do, we will fully take out your top cities in your country. That didn't seem to scare anybody. It was kind of like, oh, well, he's just bluffing. But at any rate, I think he's not going to put up with anything else. So we've come into a period where I'm deeply concerned, because he's tired of it, and Russians are tired of it. And it's so wonderful for me to see that ordinary Russians still are open to Americans. They want very much to have our friendship and to be in good humor with us and to have a meeting like we had this morning. But it's a dangerous time, and I'm deeply concerned about it. So that's for Putin and what might improve relations. I think we need to start asking Biden and some of our people, what can we do to make Russia more comfortable? The next one that he asked was, what could NGOs, Rotary, and citizen diplomats do to enhance relations between US and Russia? And of course, Zooms are a tiny little thing, but it's all we can do right now in the middle of COVID. But we can go and visit. Right now on the drawing board, I have a plan, a hope for a 2021 trip in June, which would take 100 or more Americans to Russia. And the sole reason to go would be to investigate and see whether the rumors coming out in the New York Times and the Washington Post and all of the publications that are Washington based are really truthful or not. Is it the truth? I think that Christian and others who have traveled with me, Leah, they can tell you, you get out into the regions and you look around and you think, gosh, you know, this is not what I thought it would be. This is a pretty well functioning society locally. Their streets are clean. Their people are honest. They're, you know, with this, everything is spotless these days. Buildings have been renovated in every city. It's amazing. Highways are new across the country. They didn't have highways before, at least across the country. They had one, where they had a train. But now then the whole country is opening up and developing itself. Fortunately, there's been a lot of oil revenue that they've been able to do it with. But I think that getting Americans over and investigating and putting eyes and ears in the country, and then coming back home and making it clear that this is what you've seen and heard, and it's not what the New York Times is writing. So that trip hopefully will go in June, as I said, and we will. The first part of it will be, and I hope that one or two of you will go. But the first part of it will be having 4 days in Moscow where we listen to where we question their experts on specific issues, starting with Mikhail Gorbachev. He always visits us and visits with us, except when he's in the hospital. And Vladimir Posner, most of you probably remember Posner and some of the TV programs bridges that they did earlier. He's very eager to meet with Americans always, and he's one of these people who loves both countries because he's a citizen of both countries and also a citizen of France, where he was born. But, and then Vladimir Kozin, who is a missiles and weapons industry spokesperson, PhD double times or whatever. But at any rate, he meets with us. And then we do journalists, some of the top journalists and doctors, medical doctors, different types of people that just give you a spread of what they're doing and thinking these days. And then on one day, we put all of our travelers on planes and send them all of these directions across the country with certain requirements that they have to come back with certain pieces of information and help me, because I can't get to all of those cities and out there some of them I haven't visited in 10 years and others 2 or 3 years, but still things are changing so fast in Russia. I'd like to get a picture of all of them. So then they spend 3-4 days out there, and some of them stay in home visits, which is wonderful. They get very familiar with the local people, fall in love with them, and vice versa. And meanwhile, they see and talk about everything under the sun, and then come back at one particular date. All of them come back into the airports, from airports, and then arrive in St. Petersburg. The next day, we spend a whole day in a conference room, not seeing palaces or, or all of those beautiful things that St. Petersburg has, but to literally just sit and listen to each other's reports. And so the 2 or 3 from one city will sit together, 2 or 3 from the next city sit together, and we go around the circle until each person has shared what their perceptions are from the trip to the places where they visited. This is hugely important for us to get this roundabout picture of what's going on throughout Russia from American citizens. And then, of course, after that, we begin to break, and they will go out to Rotary clubs in St. Petersburg and visit the Hermitage and go to ballets and whatever they want to. But they also will meet with local people, particularly students, professional people. I like to put professional counterparts together if possible, doctors with doctors, accountants with accountants, lawyers with lawyers. And generally in St. Petersburg, I can do that because I've been there more than any other city. I have a place there. So that's the trip. And then if anybody wants, we will offer yet another piece of travel to Crimea. But that's not in the big package. That I'm hoping I'm going to be taking a PR person with us, and the PR person will start working with us before we travel. Then they will travel with us, and then they will do PR later. This particular PR person does speak both Russian and English, but he's American. So this will help us begin to get the information out to a lot of places very soon. We will also have videographers with us, and we will have videos made from the trip. And so all of this just simply to try to get an accurate picture floating around in the United States about what Russia is today, because it is not anything like what is printed in our mainstream media. So let's see, what is the next thing? That's what we can do, or one of the things that we can do. Even to share our videos after we come home, even if you didn't travel, get those circulating to other people and say, what do you think about this? Is this new information for you, or is anything you would expect? Just start raising questions. I find it so important to just simply not try to tell people something, but ask the questions and see what they have to say, and present them with some ideas, and then let it fall. If they say, no, I think this is all baloney, then you just say, okay, well, everybody's free to think what they want to. But nonetheless, to get them information floating, I think this is an ideal time to do this, because we've gone through such a difficult period as a nation in the last few months. COVID is forcing us to think about things more deeply than we ever did before. It's forcing us to stop in our tracks and stop the wheels from spinning and think and be. I notice even around here where I live, people are much kinder to each other. They're much quieter. They're much more settled. The men are out strolling babies during the daytime. I can't believe how many men are watching the children while I don't know where the moms are. I guess they're either cooking or cleaning or whatever. But the men have become the ones that are strolling the babies in the buggies. It's really wonderful. That didn't happen in my generation. Of course, I'm 85 or almost. And so that was when men didn't even change diapers. So this is fun for me to watch. And so the next one asked then is trust, well, as a statement, trust between Washington and Moscow has never been lower due to the failed US policies which used Russia as a political scapegoat. So that comes from one of you. I have to agree that that's a part of the problem. The next one is give 3 things we can do as Rotarians to help restore trust at macro and micro levels as Rotarians. This comes from Michael Cobb, it looks like. Well, I'm saying here, start more Zooms while we can. This is the only thing we can do right now. But there are a lot of clubs around Russia that would love to have Zooms, and they haven't been invited. I heard about another one yesterday. And Barbara has said that she would like to be with one that has 70% women in it. And there's a club in Moscow that's called the New Generation Club. And they're dying to have somebody to start Zooming with. And most of them speak English, Barbara. So, so you're on. It's just a matter of, I have to have the time to put it all together. And Bob, I hope that's okay with you. All you'd have to do is just hook us up and we'll be ready to use your technology. And so, but there are plenty others, and the word will be getting around very soon that, hey, this is possible. Do you have a Zoom with an American Rotary Club? And so I expect an onslaught, particularly since they're going so well so far. Let's see. Oh, I want you to educate me on the way Rotarians do youth exchanges. I've been kind of, I think they would call it a Jack Rotarian. Is that right? Someone who comes and goes. I've been involved with Rotary for 30 years, but I've always traveled so much that I haven't been able to meet weekly meetings and be really involved. When I'm in town, I have meetings, but my trips have taken me for so often elsewhere. So I need to know specifically, and if you can just even guide me to a place in the Rotary, what am I thinking about? Your site, my memory's slipping. This is 85-year-old memory website. And so that I can look it up, because I was hoping that we would be able to do something that Vladimir Posner had been asking me to do for a long time. And that would not necessarily be through Rotary. But through Rotary, it would be students that came. No, it would be homes that were Rotarian that I would have to use in order to feel comfortable doing that. But at any rate, if I know more about your programs, then I will know more about whether this would work or not for Posner. And let's see. Oh, another thing is consider traveling as a citizen diplomat investigator and share your findings with your email lists. Might even send a daily report from home, to home when you're traveling. There are all sorts of ways to do things like this. Somebody asked a really good question. What is the best non-biased news source for information ongoing in U.S.-Russia relationship? I've forgotten who asked that, but it's really good. Maybe it's David Wick. Are you there, David? Did you ask that? Yeah. There is so much in the field that is really good now. The first thing I would say is there has been something called the Johnson's Report that has been collecting all of the news articles between US and Russia for the last 30 years. And of course, it's grown in scope today. And Johnson himself, from one of the universities on the East Coast, collects all of these. Everybody knows that they've written an article that's important, or it's in the New York Times or wherever it is, Foreign Affairs, or even just someone like me. We send that article to Johnson, and he plugs it in to the next group that he's sending. Generally, he sends about 30 articles every day or every two or 3 days. I generally I open it up, scan that article, see who's written, and then I start reading the ones that I'm scanning the ones that I want to. That keeps me fairly well informed about what's going on presently. Then there's Foreign Affairs, which does a pretty good job these days, because it looks like to me, I also subscribe to Foreign Affairs. This is a old line kind of US publication that's very, very tied in with the powers that be. But I've noticed that they have been carrying articles that are out of character for them. And I think that they're probably feeling that there may be change coming, and they better be prepared by having people know that they are printing articles that are coming from another point of view, of which there are many experts out there writing these now. People who have left the CIA, have left the FBI, ambassadors that all of a sudden are saying, enough is enough. This is not the kind of reading material that we need. I'm writing an article, or 2 or 3 of them will write an article together, and Foreign Affairs are publishing these articles. So all of a sudden I'm seeing these tell-alls, and everybody's fair, and normally people of prestige read this particular magazine. So, and it's online now too. I get my copies online. So that's positive. There are a number, there's one called Consortium News. I could send any of these to, I could just send a list of them, and you can choose any one of them you want to, or try one of them and see if you want to look at the others.
but Consortium News has a number of ex-CIA people, including one that was the daily briefer to 3 presidents. And so you can imagine how much he knows about the past and the present and the future. And he writes his own articles, and they're just wonderful. So there's this kind of information that you can be getting that is not, it's not one side or the other. It's right in the middle, or at least it's giving better information these days than we've had in the past. So I think I will just provide a list, and anybody that wants to have that list, let me know, and or maybe I'll send it to Rudy and he can figure out how to pass it around, or to Jack or Barbara. But there's really good information out there now, and I should think it would be giving pause to those people who still want to create wars. And believe you me, there are those who are making lots of money at it. And I think we're involved in something like 11 wars now around the world. We don't really even think about it. We sanction numbers of countries and cut off supplies for children's milk and all sorts of things. It breaks my heart to see what our sanctions are doing, and yet nobody seems to be worried about those. So, but I think that they're quickly coming into focus also with this whole new group of people who are rethinking U.S. policy. And this is very positive as far as I can tell. Let's see. I like this, and I won't say who it came from. It's, what is the real story on what Putin is doing in Russia and in relation to the U.S.? Well, Putin's not doing anything in relation to the U.S. In relation to Russia, he has absolutely changed the country totally. It's an amazing place now. When he took it over in 2000, it was literally just on its knees. Today, it looks like many metropolitan cities. It's just amazing. I'm sure that some of you got the ones from Ekaterinburg today, the aerial view of their city. It's just magnificent. I remember when those buildings were dirty, didn't have paint on them. The streets were pocked. The changes that have happened since Putin came in Russia are absolutely astounding. I can't believe a country could change that much. But of course, they have had a lot of oil revenues and a lot of natural elements. For instance, they have large pockets of aluminum, nickel, diamonds, gold. The place is wealthy beyond. They could get by without oil revenues now, but of course they're still using those. But they're also sanctioned very heavily. Europe is not supposed to use their oil because America says not to. But of course Germany is going, the economies of these countries are going down because they have to buy then oil that's been shale oil and gas from the United States, but it's much more expensive than getting it from right locally where they are, where the pipelines are that are coming from Russia. So there's a lot of politicking and a lot of forcing European countries to do what we want them to do, and hopefully that's going to be somehow or another challenged. But that's the real story as far as Putin goes. He's created miracles there. I wish that somebody could create miracles here, and hopefully that people will step forth and do it. What are his goals? Very simply, Putin's goals are to bring Russia back to its original splendor. He has no idea, no interest at all in being the next unipolar country in the world. As a matter of fact, he constantly talks about the fact that the Earth has come to the place where it can't stand unipolar. It can't deal with a unipolar world any longer. We have got to choose the best and the finest of what's amongst us, and we need to sit down at a table and see how we can help all of these other countries, starting with not creating any more wars or rumors of wars. And this, of course, I know that I'm telling you things you probably don't believe. So get on the plane and come with me, and you'll begin to understand a little bit better. What are his goals? Why are there assassination attempts on people? This latest assassination attempt apparently was Navalny's own people who, and I don't know whether he was complicit in it and thought that he could take a drop of it and get away with it. Whatever it was, he took it someplace between the plane and the plane trip to Germany. And then the Germans went along with this. The Germans don't know what to do these days because they're trying to make the United States happy, and yet they get caught in the bind when they do. And so Germans said, "Oh yes, he's got some of this Novichok in him when he arrived, but he hadn't had it before he got there, before he left Russia." And so Putin simply says, "Great, get us the samples to prove it." No samples come forth. He's been asking for samples now ever since Navalny was diagnosed in Germany, and Germany will not release them. Now, why is this? At any rate, I'm very suspicious of all of these poisonings, and I'm absolutely sure that Putin doesn't have anything to do with them. You can, and this is my 4-way test here says the things we think and say and do. Is it truth? From my perspective, this is the truth. I know that there are 99% of our population probably would believe that that's not the truth. So, but then how do they get their facts? Do they read the papers? Do they? Yes, they do read the papers. Any rate, what are his goals? His goals are to build Russia back and to have it able to help other countries rebuild themselves. I don't know whether you noticed or not, but when all of this situation broke out between Armenia and Azerbaijan recently, in the last 2-3 weeks, actually it's been simmering all along, but at any rate, Putin came up with the most beautiful scenario of how to get these two countries, small countries, working together again. And said this part can be taken by this group, this part can be taken by this group, and this group, and this group. And it was beautiful. And Russia hardly had a piece in it other than just creating the strategy. It was amazing to me. And what's going on between Putin and Trump? Nothing, except he was hoping that he would be able to work with him a little bit. I can't imagine those two even being in the same room. They're like night and day, or day and night. But Russians themselves felt like that Trump would be more willing to get along with Russia than would the Democrats, because the Democrats, my party, has not been willing to get along with them at all. I'm caught right now partyless. However, I would like to be a Democrat again, but I couldn't vote for that ticket this time. But at any rate, I wrote in my person that I would like, or person that I would like to see. And by the way, there's another person coming on in now. Let me see what time it is. 7:26. Another man that's coming on very strong, not politically, but as a person who can make sense of all of this. And he's a former military man, a West Pointer. He was in the Army for 20 years, getting more and more concerned about the direction of it. He got out and went to Princeton, I believe, and got a PhD in US military history. He knows history back and forth. He considers himself a historian today. But at any rate, his name is Andrew Bacevich. He's the new president, the only president of the new Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, and the only public figure at this point that I can see that might be a 2024 candidate. And personally urged him I somehow or another, the universe allows me entrees to these people that I never would have anticipated. And I end up having conversations with them. And so I've said to him, you need to be on the ticket in 2024 and we will see. But anyway, you can
Sharon, we've had several people comment that they would love to go on your next trip over to Russia.
Great.
Do you want to furnish me information that I could share with them, or do you want me to send them your direction?
Yes, I'm right now preparing the letter of invitation to go on that trip. And I'll probably have it out in the next 2 or 3 days. And yes, it's a long letter that explains it all and gives all the requirements. So yes, I will. And so I think I'm just about at the end of it. Oh, number 10. What's going on between Putin and Trump? I said, no, nothing. What realistic goals can we identify and engage in? I think we've talked about several.
Sharon, could you hold up your book before you leave?
My
Show
book?
people your book.
I think I've got it here somewhere. What is the copy of it? Yeah.
We've got it here if you want. I just don't, I want
She
you
got
to
it.
remember to talk about your book.
The Power of Impossible Ideas, because all of these ideas in the book were impossible when we started trying to float them out to the public. This is a miracle. It really is. And the subtitle is Ordinary Citizens' Extraordinary Efforts to Avert International Crises.
That's a must read, Sharon. Everybody should have that book.
You have one now, Barbara.
I sure do. Is your offer still up? If anybody wants it, they can email you and you'll send it out?
Absolutely free. If you promise to read it.
Absolutely. You can't put it down once you start.
Well,
Thank you.
it's kind of a hokey story of it's amazing.
It's inspirational, Sharon.
It's a history lesson.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Well, it's logical, and it goes from the very first thought on. When I walked through my friend's apartment or house and he had this thing happen in my head that said it's time to go see the enemy. I had been working for PSR and doing presentations for them, but I had never even thought about going to see the enemy.
Sharon, do you feel comfortable if we put your email in the chat box so that people can order the book from you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So that's about it. Our time is over. I talked fast and I hope I made sense to you. And I don't expect that you can agree with me because, people don't. When they've had a lot of other types of information, they can't swallow as much as what I've said.
Well, it's interesting. My question was about Putin because I have friends who live in Russia and they are so happy. They said, you're getting all the wrong news. You're getting everything wrong because you need an enemy and we're not an enemy anymore.
Some of us are.
Sharon, we'll connect. You and I'll connect on the youth exchange piece, so I understand better what they want from their side and what we're able to do from our side.
Well, it's not that they want anything. Posner wants us to make this happen because he feels like it will be a huge change in the way that Americans look at, particularly the Russians will be fine, but he wants to change American mentality.
We have
Well, the film festival, which is over now, but we'll start in January, we could focus on getting more films from Russia, from the peace side of it, from the UN. I think it's very important for the new administration to take a bold stand with our Peace in the Street Film Festival. We get very few films right now from Russia, even though we get from 40 countries. So let's think about how we can get us out there so people will say that this is legitimate and it's okay and they can make it on their phone and it's free and all that kind of stuff. And we always.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad Mike Caruso is on. He has a wonderful idea of forming a Rotary Inter-Country Committee. And I like that idea, Mike, and I'm going to follow through on it.
Good idea, Mike.
Great. Okay, let me know how I can help.
Okay.
All right, any others?
Well, there are lots of compliments for you. You should almost print out.
She's an incredible woman. My God.
We like you, Karen. And we're very proud of you. Thank you. So, do you have any final words? Oh, Derek?
Yes, I was part of a group study exchange with one of the first group study exchanges from Russia that came to Vancouver, British Columbia, and in Seattle in 1987 or 89. I'm not sure the exact year. And this was interesting because they were first out. And so it was a culture shock for those people and a culture shock for us.
Well, I think one of the things we can continue to do, Sharon, is something we started in 2016 when we brought over the virtuosos from Yakutsk, who is the a violin group over. And the arts, I think, is really powerful. And the friendships that have been created from that, with these young women going back and connecting with our Rotarians here in our district, is just very powerful. And so I think, that whole idea, I'm in agreement with Derek and folks here. We just have a lot of power.
Well, many of us have just not dropped off the turnip truck, Rudy. And so some of us have been involved in these programs for some time. And so not to discount what other people make a suggestion on. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well,
Just let us, there's so many things that can happen. All we need is people and people who are dedicated to making it happen. That's all it's needed.
Right.
Thank you.
And then starting on the Friday after Thanksgiving, I'm leaving for 2 months in Europe, and I'm working with an NGO, and what they're doing is educating the Islamic people in Belgium in English. And so I've been certified to do that. And so I'll be gone for basically 2 months.
We're going to miss you.
We're out in the world. We're not sitting just looking and saying, oh, this is lovely.
Right.
Nobody said that.
Lovely.
Derek,
Congratulations,
you can
Derek.
come into our meetings from there if you wish.
I will definitely do that. Yes.
It's wonderful. They can look at our videos on your phone, and it's in all multi-languages.
Right. No, I'll be online, but I'll be in basically in Brussels and then in the outlying areas.
Our new Arnold. I mean,
They're trying to assimilate the people because there's a tremendous problem with assimilating these people into the local culture. And what they want to do is incorporate the English speaking as well as the French.
Where are they coming from?
Wherever in Africa. I mean,
Syria,
they
all
float
the
across the Mediterranean and they land. And one thing that's happening, I think Denmark has probably the best program. Children from the age of 3 and 4 are indoctrinated in the Danish culture. They're not letting them fall into a ghetto. They're starting with the children, and then they go home and they teach the parents their new language, their new culture, instead of just leaving them there, because that's been the problem over the years, even starting with the Jewish people, and I'm aware of that because of being Jewish, that you can't isolate people, you have to assimilate them, and that's what they're trying to do in Europe, because there's a tremendous problem. As you see these decapitation of teachers and things like that that's going on in France. They have to be very aggressive, and what they're trying to do is make sure that they are fluent in French and in English.
Sharon, we're getting a lot of compliments thanking you for a wonderful program tonight. And you started a lot of people thinking, and conversations will pursue, and I just love you and thank you for your life of service and trying to make a difference.
Well, and thank you for this wonderful, wonderful award.
Oh, you're so deserving. All right, Rudy, with that, we are ending our meeting, but it's going to continue with conversations and people who really do care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful event. Always.
Good job, Sharon. Good job.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
I'm here to hear more about what you do too.
Thank you.
Did
Dr.
you
so
copy the?
And
I sent you what I wanted to talk about.
okay, and again, the second Thursday of each month, we have Fireside Chat. We had one a week ago, and it's a good time to learn about each other a little deeper and dig a little deeper into things. And we appreciate all our guests on tonight. You have a-
David Wick, I will answer your email, I promise you, this week. It's Carol Kretschmann. It's been really a difficult week so far.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank
All
you,
right. Thanks,
Barbara.
Rudy. Thanks, Sharon. And thank you, visitors. Join us again.
Barbara, you should be getting an invite for your video.
Okay, darling.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Good night. David and Brenda, I want to connect with you guys. Maybe I can get hold of you tomorrow. Okay, I'll reach out with an email.
Weird that I don't get any of that.
Take care, everybody.
You too. Take care.